I am begged to stand on the existing protocol. I must say that I'm very, very excited to be here today. And concerning the subject matter we are here to discuss, which is what I mean to, which is science. I already heard us talk about art, so I want to bring in the other perspective, which is science. And I would like to say that science is a pivotal part of human existence. Science has to do with observations that we make around us that trigger certain questions. Because sometimes you see things going on and you begin to ask, why is it so? Or how can I make it to look like this? So one thing about science is that it has a way of building up our creativity. So what I want to start by is to talk about my own self and how I journeyed so far in the field of science. From the time I came to this earth and I was growing, I had always admired and wanted to be a scientist. But by then, my utmost desire was to be a medical doctor. And so while I was still very much tender, I continued to append doctor to my name. So whenever I write letter to my mom, I will write Dr. Ben and I will send to her. So that drive, that desire has been there. But along the line, I had some fears that I couldn't handle, but I believed so much that I would still get to that point of having doctor appended to my name. And so when I continue to grow, as we know, most of the times you desire to study a course and can jam you into another course. And some of us, we feel we are being disfigured and not being where we ought to be. But I've also learned from my own life that everything worketh together for good for those that do what? That love God. And so when I saw myself getting admission to study zoology, I studied zoology. So at the point I got that admission, several persons mocked me. They were laughing at me, what will you do with zoology? So, but there's that drive in me that I know I will excel, irrespective of what I studied. And so I continue to push on until the point where I observe that we have several areas of this zoology. So what I want to quickly drop at this juncture is that for our parents, do not ridicule any course or don't run down any course and say it is not relevant. Like the first speaker already said, every course is important. What matters is that you put in your best. And it is said that what is worth doing is worth doing well. So when I encountered that course, I also was praying and asking God to guide me through. I came to the point where I now discovered that we have an area of the course that has to do with the study of insects. And I know many of us encounter insects every day. And the most common one I know is the mosquito, right? That bite us every now and then. So there are several insects that are in the world that one can actually start studying and you make ends meet out of that. So that was how I narrowed down to studying insects. From there, I started studying honeybees, where I can now manipulate the honeybees to produce honey, and that honey I can sell to make money. So that area I also discovered gave me strength to remain in the sciences. Apart from that, there are other areas of science that I've also delved into that are making ends meet from there. One of them is the use of computers. I was very fortunate that after our secondary school, I had that hunger to go for a computer training. And luckily, God provided a sponsor and I went for that. So by the time I left the university, I was asking myself a question: what can I do with my computer skill that I already had? That was how I started the business I'm running till today, which has to do with computer. I also train students and all of that, despite the fact that I'm also a biologist. So what I'm also wanting to drop at this juncture is that the way Nigeria is now, nobody is advised to remain at a spot. You must learn to be multitasking and diversify. On that note, it means that whatever area or opportunity you have to learn a skill, try as much as possible to learn that. Are you still with me? So when we talk about science, it is so broad that we can never exhaust it today. But I want to also mention some other areas of science that today has made life easier and more comfortable for man. It has also aided our existence on earth. But we also start from the beginning, because when God created man, he placed him in the garden of what? Eden. And in that garden, we know that there were food available. And one of the things that scientists study is food. And you and I know today that you cannot survive without food. Can you survive without food? If you don't eat for 3 days, will you be happy? Aha. So now science has to also cover that area. It's very, very critical to human, which is food. And today we have also observed that the scientists have made ways or made some innovative solutions with respect to promoting production of food. Today we also have heard about the use of organic food, which we say is safer for health, because we know that several of the things we suffer from in terms of ailments are rooted in the kind of things we consume. So today we hear people preaching about organic food, and one of the ways to ensure organic food or organic agriculture is that you continue to ensure that the environment is safe. So this food that we say is important can also be guided in the way we produce them, so as to ensure that the output is very, very safe for human consumption. And that will now lead me to the area of science that has to do with the environment. We have those we call the environmental scientists. Their duty is to monitor the environment and ascertain when it is not safe any longer, or to raise alarm when it is becoming so contaminated. And they begin to talk to the government and stakeholders to see how we can take care of the environment and ensure that things are well in place. So environmental science is also an aspect of science that one can delve into. And environmental health is also of paramount importance to the government globally today. We had the issue of ozone layer depletion and all of that. These are as a result of the way man has misused the environment or abused the environment, and it has led to certain things that we suffer. Let me not dwell much on the environmental health, but before I leave that, I want to mention one area that I've also seen that makes people survive too. One of them is recycling. You see people moving around picking waste. They tell you what they make out of those wastes, you'll be so shocked. In fact, one of my uncles in my place now, he has built a very good house just by recycling, gathering all these things, selling them, and then they use them for other products. So this is also part of science. Now let's also talk about the medical science, which I know most people are always interested in. As a medical scientist, you have that responsibility of ensuring that the health of man or even animals are properly taken care of. So most people we know today are medical doctors, and some of them God has used them to save lives. You can recall the days you felt so ill and you were rushed to the hospital. Just one injection, you got fine, right? That's courtesy of science, what the medical profession can do. In that field of medicine, we have so many areas of it which I can't start telling us now. But it's also the areas of science that has become very, very interesting. And one thing I want to add is that in the bid to do science or practice science, there's always need to be innovative about it. The way they practice medicine in the past 30 years is not the way it is being practiced today. Do you agree with me? Courtesy of science, some women are no longer called barren. True or false? Courtesy of science. The doctors know what to do and a baby will form. Sometimes those that have issue of miscarriages, there's a thing they will do to the body and that baby will not go again. At some juncture, the doctors bringing out a baby that has not been carried to food them and preserving it in another area where they now get fully developed and the babies are out. We also have heard about groundbreaking medical practice whereby two babies that are joined together, someone separates them. That's courtesy of science. So science is all encompassing and is something that anyone that is interested in it should do it with all seriousness and commitment. Can you clap your hands for science? And clap your hands for God for giving us that knowledge to do science. I have also noticed that there's this area of science where people can now tell you if you are carrying a male or a female in your womb. You know of that area? Very interesting and fascinating. So in a way, we dominate this world, we take care of it through scientific processes or activities. Let me also leave that area for a while. Let's talk about the architectural aspect. Today you live in houses, you live in homes, well built, well aerated, well organized, because an architect designed that building. After which a civil engineer was involved, a building engineer was also involved, and you see wonderful edifices here and there that have made life very comfortable for us. Science is really, really interesting. Also, I want to talk about how that science and technology has played a role in our banking industry today. Before now, for you to withdraw cash, where do you go to? The bank. Now you can go to POS. Who developed that POS machine? A scientist. Can you see that? A scientist developed the POS machine. Now when you go to before now too, we know that it's very easy to rob the bank. But now you go to banks, before you enter, you touch a button. And until that button opens, you cannot enter. Once it is 4 o'clock, they lock that door. Automated door. Science have made life easy for us. Some of you in your homes now, you wash clothes with what? Washing machine. During the time I was growing up, we never saw anything like that. Even if it is 2,000 clothes, you wash it with your bare hands. I know it is not very, very palliative, you know. You don't enjoy that. So science has made life easy. Can I talk about how the science has played a role in our transport sector? Today, you can fly to US and come back within a day.